Over 1,000 games were released on Steam in October. I curated a list of 50 of the most interesting of those titles and took a look at their Linux compatibility. In this video, I'll bring you 30 of those games, the ones that are known to be playable. I'll tell you a little bit about each game and its compatibility with Linux. Let's get into it. What's good, Deck Gang? A little over a month ago, I published a Proton progress report of sorts for PC games released in September. This was prior to the announcement of the Deck Verify program, and so I used ProtonDB as well as my own personal testing to let you know the compatibility status of the latest games on Linux. You won't need a complete breakdown of Proton and ProtonDB to enjoy this video, but if you'd like one, go ahead and check out my September video, linked in the description below. In this video, we're going to simplify things a bit. There are 7 possible statuses for a game on ProtonDB. One status is completely unrated. That means there are not enough user-submitted ratings to ascertain the compatibility status. Then, there's a native status in the event that a game has a native Linux build available. The last 5 statuses, in order of least playable to most playable, are Borked, Bronze, Silver, Gold, and Platinum. If a game is Gold or Platinum or has a native build, ProtonDB refers to this as Gold++. So in this video, I'm going to use this category. Anything that is Gold++ is considered to be playable. This matches up to the Deck Verified playable status pretty nicely, I think. For the purposes of this video, we are not going to distinguish between playable and what could be Deck Verified. I'll save that for another video maybe. Before we begin, here's a short disclaimer. Compatibility is a fluid topic and these statuses are subject and in fact likely to change. Most often they change for the better. On some rare occasions there are games that break compatibility or there are more users reporting that it's not actually playable on their machine. Without a single target hardware like the Deck will have, it might be an imperfect system, but it's still extremely valuable. So let's dive right in. Age of Empires 4 is one of the bigger names in the October releases, and thankfully this one is playable. When it launched, it did have graphical artifact issues, but those have since been resolved thanks to an update to Proton. This game, of course, is the venerable real-time strategy from Microsoft. It's been a long time since the previous entry, but thankfully it appears that this one has delivered, as evidenced by the very positive user and critical reception alike. Circuit Superstars is such a gorgeous racer played from an overhead perspective akin to Micro Machines. This game is both approachable for newcomers but complex enough for gearheads with things like pit strategies to deal with. While I love the look, it may not scream Forza or Gran Turismo. However, the racing physics appear to be absolutely top shelf. This game is near the top of my wishlist and I look forward to trying it out soon, given its gold rating on ProtonDB. F.I.S.T. Forged in Shadow Torch is a game I've been playing a lot of lately, and it's a very fun action-oriented Metroidvania depending on what you're looking for. If what you want out of a Metroidvania is to be able to get lost, well, you might be disappointed as this game is quite linear. Also, the combat is excellent, but you can probably get by with just mashing the same combo over and over again. All told though, I'm here for it. The narrative is compelling, the combat is tight, and the skill tree is actually rewarding. I'll probably finish this game before I get my Deck, but it seems like the perfect game for that handheld. Gloomhaven has received absolutely glowing reviews for its digital adaptation of the tabletop game by the same name. If you like tactical RPGs at all, this seems like a must try. This game has a gold rating, so it does still have some slight issues on Linux, but overall playability is high, including multiplayer. The card game by Yoko Taro, designer of Nier Automata, came out in October as well. It's called Voice of Cards: The Isle Dragon Roars. My time with this game felt like very standard JRPG fare, but with a unique card-based presentation. Reception has been good so far, and almost all of the Proton reviews are good as well. Check it out. Legion TD2 is a sequel to the hit Warcraft 3 mod, Legion TD. The only Warcraft 3D mod that was more popular than this one was Dota itself. Naturally, this is a tower defense title, and in this one you can play with up to 7 other players. It launched out of early access and has a gold rating on ProtonDB. That said, some of the more recent reports say that they can no longer get the game to even start. That will certainly be something to keep an eye on. Into the Pit is a fast-paced, roguelite / retro FPS hybrid inspired in part by Devil Daggers. I absolutely love the use of color in this game. Reviews are mostly positive, but some do point to it being repetitive, which is not what you'd like out of a roguelike. Hopefully that gets addressed in a patch because the Proton reviews are solid, leading to a gold status. Settlement Survival is a city builder inspired by Banished that hit early access and appears to be getting a lot of traction with fans of the genre. This style of city builder mixes survival mechanics, encouraging you to make the most of your limited resources while attempting to mitigate disasters. I don't necessarily expect this game to get deck verified without some serious input overhaul to allow for controller support, but it is quite playable on Linux via Proton. Blade of Darkness is an action RPG that was originally released in 2001. Seen by many as a progenitor to Dark Souls, the similarities are indeed striking. The remaster of this title seems to do everything right, garnering it the highly coveted, overwhelmingly positive reception on Steam. On Proton, it's rated Platinum, so it should work out of the box. Hello Games is known for their hit No Man's Sky, but The Last Campfire is their latest entry and it plays wonderfully. It's a puzzle game with adorable characters, striking visuals, and a contemplative narrative. It seems Hello Games knocked it out of the park as this title has an overwhelmingly positive reception on Steam, not to mention an 80 on OpenCritic. This one is perfectly playable on Linux. Inscryption is genuinely one of the best games of the year. Developed by Daniel Mullins, the mind behind the trippy Pony Island, Inscryption has an overwhelmingly positive reception and it's a deck building game infused with horror. It's billed as a roguelike and has some of those mechanics, but this is also a very story driven and somewhat linear game. The Proton rating is Platinum and I tested this a bit myself, no issues to speak of. The Mega Mecha crossover Super Robot Wars 30 has continued to receive excellent reception. This tactics RPG from Bandai Namco appears to play well and it has a Platinum Proton rating. It seems like a perfect fit for the deck. ElecHead is a 2D pixel puzzle platformer that's playable on Proton and has a popping two-tone palette, which by the way you can swap out for several other two-tone options reminiscent of games like Downwell. The puzzles are the sort that appear simple at first blush but will leave you scratching your head just long enough to feel satisfying. This is one I tried myself on Linux with no issues and I would highly recommend it as one of my favorite puzzle platformers of the year. If you're into train sims, check out Railroads Online. It's currently in early access and has excellent reviews. The game seems like a pretty intense simulation where you have to spend plenty of time on the setup, with things like chopping trees, laying tracks, and connecting cars, all before you get to enjoy the train ride. But like I said, the people seem to enjoy it, and the Proton rating is excellent. You all know Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania. It's the compilation title from Sega and RGG Studio, the team responsible for Yakuza and, well, Super Monkey Ball. This game has a story mode as well as the minigames that were so much fun with friends back in the day. If you like Super Monkey Ball and want to see more games that are like this and playable on Linux, check out my Games Like Super Monkey Ball video. That said, this game is quite playable on Linux itself. Killsquad is a hack-and-slashing twin-stick shooting hybrid that left out of early access. You can play with up to 4 players, the skill tree looks fun, and there's a lot of character customization. Not to mention, compatibility is high on this one as it has a platinum rating. Check it out.
Expendable team of bounty hunters beats, shoots, and thrashes the pest out of the way without any afterthought or consideration for the...
DUSK 82 Ultimate Edition is a retro-looking puzzle title that serves as a prequel to the mega-popular shooter DUSK. It's inspired by classics like Chip's Challenge and Sokoban, with turn-based combat that plays a bit like Rogue. I love the charmingly limited palette reminiscent of the ZX Spectrum. Finally, this game plays great on Linux. Evil Tonight is a genuinely perfect game for Steam Deck. While it is unrated on ProtonDB, I tried this one personally and it works wonderfully. This is a survival horror title that feels and plays like Resident Evil 1 on PlayStation, but looks like Chrono Trigger. Some of the aiming controls can be a bit awkward, but I find that to be consistent with pioneers of the genre. The team responsible for this one is DYA Games, who are also responsible for gems like Bot-Vice and Strikey Sisters. Evil Tonight is another W for this team. Happy Game is a title by Amanita Design, who are great at making cute adventure titles. This time they've used their power for horror. This game is trippy and you might not last with the lights out and the headphones on. It's got great reviews and is well worth a play. Of course, it's very playable on Linux with a platinum Proton rating. GB Rober has a 2-bit 4-color palette a la Game Boy games, hence the name. More specifically, this game is inspired by the Mega Man titles that appeared on the classic handheld. The mechanics, however, are quite modernized with a double jump, roll, and dash. While certainly challenging, the controls are tight, and this game will have you coming back for more punishment if you're a fan of the genre. It's unrated on Proton, but I tested it personally and encountered no issues whatsoever. Nuclear Blaze is another unrated game that I personally tested. This is a short 2D platformer by the developer of Dead Cells. It clocks in at under 3 hours and the narrative will compel you to play it through thanks to the mysteries you uncover. You may not have thought that fighting fires could be fun and engaging, but I've gotta say I truly enjoyed it and it played well on my hacking deck. Midnight Protocol is a hacking-based and narrative-driven RPG with great reception from users and media outlets alike. It plays out like a puzzle game while providing shades of Netrunner. While this may not be suitable for the deck due to its focus on the keyboard, this title does have a native Linux build. Increlution is a survival idler in early access. If you like Cookie Clicker or games of that ilk, this might be of interest. While it's not my particular cup of tea, I like the idea of mixing this with some survival mechanics. If you're curious, it's pretty affordable at $3 and it has a free demo. It also has a native Linux build, so you should have no compatibility issues. Bear's Restaurant is a charming adventure title ported from mobile. It's a short but emotional title that's received a lot of great reviews and it's natively playable on Linux. You play as the lone waiter at an eatery in the afterlife where the recently deceased order their last supper. Through this, you get to hear their story. It also appears to be an exceptional port including support for controllers, widescreen resolutions, and a new epilogue. This seems like a strong title if you like narrative adventures like To the Moon. Ziggurat 2 is a hectic roguelite FPS with shades of Hexen and it exited early access in October. The mobility in this game looks exciting and in fact its predecessor was well praised for its fast-paced combat. By all accounts, the sequel improves on the original formula in every way. Best of all, it has a native build for Linux. Alisa is another survival horror title on the list. This time, it's a lot more true to the look of Resident Evil, Silent Hill, and the like with its low poly and low resolution art with pre-rendered backgrounds. I played the demo for this one and it's incredibly strange. The dollhouse aesthetic certainly contributes to how unsettling it can be. This one is natively playable on Linux and I would recommend trying the demo. Turing Complete is an engineering puzzle game that has overwhelmingly positive reception and is currently in early access. While most Zack-like games will focus on either something like logic gates or assembly language or something like that, this game actually combines all of the above: logic gates, CPU architecture, assembly, as well as programming, making the name Turing Complete really appropriate for this game. Once again, this may not be deck appropriate given the controls, but this is perfectly playable on Linux with a native build. The Lightbringer is a game that should absolutely have more reviews. At the time of writing, it only has 8 user reviews, which is a shame. While the 3D puzzle platforming is well-tread ground, the execution is solid here. It gives shades of Zelda, albeit a bit more linear. If you're curious, there's a demo, and yeah, it's got a native Linux build.
I pass this duty on to you. Do not be afraid, as I will guide you through.
Despots game has pixel art arenas that look like a neo-gothic version of Smash TV, but it plays more like some sort of auto-battler or a tower defense game. You build up your army and watch it battle against your opponents. This is published by tinyBuild, which has an excellent reputation for solid PC indies. This title is natively playable on Linux. I spent my first few minutes with Bubble People completely unsure of what to do. It's a mouse-based game, so I just started clicking interesting looking things. Once I got the hang of it though, I got it. It can be best described as a pixel hunt game with the pleasant sensation of popping bubble wrap. This game is unrated on Proton, but I tried it myself with no issues. It's free and it has an overwhelmingly positive reception, so I do recommend giving it a shot. So that's my curated list of 30 games that are playable on Linux for October. Watch out for another video where I cover the other 20 games. Spoiler alert, it includes Back 4 Blood and Guardians of the Galaxy, so stay tuned. If you watch this whole video and still want to know more about Proton or want to see last month's games, do check out the Will It Play from September, where I cover games like World War Z Aftermath, Potioncraft Alchemist Simulator, Deathloop, Tales of Iron, NBA 2K22, and a lot more. And if you made it this far, you are a real one and you may have heard this before. Like and subscribe, slap the bell to get notified. Tell a friend it's a vibe. That gang out. Goodbye.